or most of our dietitians from Married to Health come together and we speak on a topic. Today, we're going to be talking about building the healthiest lunch. So we're going to be sharing some lunch items. So stay tuned till the end, to the beginning, to the middle. We're going to be sharing items. We're going to be talking about lunch and building a lunch, building a plant-based lunch, building maybe primarily plant-based lunch, talking about different goodies you can pack, answering your questions live. So we can see your questions down below in the chat. So we'll start with intros. My name is James Marin. I'm an integrative registered dietitian, environmental nutritionist, and the co-founder of Married to Health, which is an integrative dietetics practice.
And I'm Dahlia Marin. I'm an integrative gut health dietitian and also one of the co-founders of Married to Health.
I'm Katie. I am a registered dietitian. I'm also pursuing my PhD in breast cancer and diet interventions, and I primarily focus on women's health and oncology.
And I am Laura Sanchez. I'm the emotional RD, and I'm also a registered dietitian, and I focus on gut health and emotional eating.
Beautiful. Well, welcome. So we're so excited for those watching live, for those watching later. We can see the chat. So we're excited to answer questions. But I want to start off by introing this, like why plant-based, or why even talk about lunch? I think what we try to do as dietitians is bridge the gap between research and then what you're actually doing in your everyday life, right? Like the research says, eat 6 servings of fermented, foods a day. Who's doing that? What does that look like in your real life? Another big part of the research, the USDA is showing that 97% of Americans are not eating the recommended amount of fiber. And what does that translate to, right? So if a majority of you watching this, likely, right? I'm not judging you. You may be not in this statistic, but what the science and what the data is showing is majority of Americans are not eating enough fiber. So what's that translating to? Well, what are we seeing? We're seeing a rise in chronic disease. We're starting to see intestinal issues and GI issues that we normally see in older adults, now in children. That also translates to cardiovascular issues, mental health issues, mood disorders, right across the board. For us and our practice being integrative, we like to look at root causes and dig deep and go, what is that? Like, why is that? What is causing that? And for us, the gut is a major focus. So yes, we're talking about building a healthy lunch, but really we're talking about building a healthy body, right? No matter what age or stage you're in. So a lot of this is going to be centered around the science, the research, what we see in our practice, and what works best for our patients. So our recommendations, yeah, they're kind of our opinions, but they're our opinions based on a lot of great research, a lot of great data. And for Dahlia and I, over a decade of being a registered dietitian, right? So it's coming from what we do in our life and everything I just mentioned. So wanted to put that out there if anyone wants to add to that. Or Katie and Laura, I think you agree, but feel free to add to it. Yeah.
Love it.
Okay.
Yeah. And, we're real people at the end of the day. Yes, we have the advantage of having in-depth knowledge about something we all engage in 3, 4, 5 times a day, right? We all eat. And so we're very grateful to be educated in food and really share that expert opinion with all of you with our respective specialties. But we are all eating lunch. So we thought this was a perfect topic. A lot of you are getting back into a groove. I know we are. We shared our excitement earlier with our team and our dietitians that we are back on our schedule. Our daughter finally started school again. It was a beautiful summer. We had 3 months of summer. And we're so happy to be packing her lunches again and also be back into our own routine again, where we're not kind of just flying by the seat of our pants. Yeah. So whether you're somebody who works from home and is like, you know what, some days I don't eat that much. And I'm not going to lie, some Fridays, that's me, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I had meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. I didn't even make time for lunch, and I didn't think ahead to pack anything, even though I'm home, right? Sometimes you don't think about that just because I'm home, it doesn't mean I have 15, 20 minutes to go downstairs and put something together. So whether you're at home and needing to put something together, maybe you're a student, maybe you are working out of your home and you're taking food with you, we really wanted to share what that looks like for us. So that way, hopefully it's helping you, and hopefully you kind of see what's the most nutrient dense way that I could pack my lunch, because I almost think the word healthy, unfortunately, is becoming triggering to people because
We
it
can't use the
honestly
word healthy
can.
anymore,
It can be
everybody.
kind of subjective, right? Like what's really nourishing to me might not be nourishing to Katie and Laura or James. So I think, packing your most nutrient dense lunch is something that we're all excited to share about, no matter what your life and your lifestyle looks like.
So I see, I know you guys really can't see, Delia has a little lunch here. You want to go first, or is anyone?
No, yeah, I'd love to know. Katie, Laura, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think one big thing I want to add is I have a lot of patients who are working on building a healthier relationship around food. And oftentimes, what can happen is during our busy work days, like you said, Dahlia, sometimes you forget lunch, or you are like, I'm too busy. I can't get to it. I can't step away from my desk. And then oftentimes, what happens is people get home after work, and it's just like your hunger is at a 10 out of 10. And it's hard to listen to anything else when you're at that point. And often what can happen is you just start eating because you haven't given your body the fuel that it's needed to run for the day. And then it's really hard to choose nutrient dense foods and to stop when you're feeling full, because those cues are kind of pushed down over that hunger voice that is so, so strong.
Yeah, I would just like to add a little bit onto what Katie was saying. It's like your brain goes, it's very simplistic. It goes from safe and connection to threat. My gosh, we don't have any food, survival, alarms. And the first thing that it's going to do is, okay, what's the easiest way of getting energy? And usually it's fast food or things that have very little time to digest so that you get that energy, because we're in the survival of like, we're going to starve. And that's what the brain thinks. And so, yeah, just being mindful about that, and just knowing that it happens to all of us, even to us dietitians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was there, and I know it's like, oh, you've been a dietitian for 10 years, you've been plant-based for 13 years, and we have Married to Health and integrative dietetics practice. I grew up on fast food, right? I was that fast food kid. I was collecting all the McDonald's toys. For those that don't know, I was morbidly obese as a child. I had asthma and joint pain and all the allergies and sickness you can think of. And for a while, chronic migraines and so many issues from that. And that was me, right? I was a latchkey kid, and eventually my mom was working and she was too busy, and I was eating just quick, convenient items. And what we want to, showcase is yes, that can be needed in some seasons, right? Especially if you're unaware. But as you gain knowledge and as you are presented with information, there are still ways to get quick and healthy and convenient options that you can grab and go and do that. And I think first and foremost, maybe showing you what is a goal, like what is a goal to reach toward. Do you want to show that, Delia?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll kind of pop this on the screen. So this is something we share with our patients in our practice, which is essentially building your plant-based plate, right? What does this look like? So essentially an easy, or go ahead, I'll let Dahlia go for it.
Oh, all right. I always say, you want to start your day setting yourself up really, really nourished, because if you're hangry from the morning and you're like, yeah, I grabbed a waffle and it took me 2 seconds and then I was hungry 30 minutes later, so I started snacking on whatever was available in the office, then that's going to affect your lunch, going to affect your dinner, going to affect the rest of your day. It'll affect not only your hunger cues, your satiety, but your energy as well, where maybe then you're like, oh, I didn't eat enough, right? Maybe you just didn't have enough energy. You didn't eat enough energy. You didn't eat enough calories. So you're like, I need energy. I need coffee. I need matcha. I need kombucha, but you just need food. So really, we always recommend starting your day with something really nourishing. Replenish those carbohydrates. Just because you were resting doesn't mean your whole entire body was resting. Your brain was still keeping you alive. Your heart was still pumping. Your lungs were still doing their thing. You were still at work, even though you didn't feel it. It was restful work, but it was still work for your body. And that often uses quite a bit of carbohydrate stores. So we always recommend start your day off with some great complex carbohydrates, whether that's fruit, a starchy vegetable, a great whole grain, some legumes. Start your day off with some great carbohydrate mixed with protein. So any type of protein that you want to go for, make sure that you're setting yourself up for lunch very well by setting yourself up with a great breakfast. And again, this could be as fast as toasting up a waffle. This could be, we love Amy's, for example. Amy's has these great tofu scramble burritos or bean burritos. That's going to heat up just as quickly as a toaster waffle or as something else like that you're really just grabbing going, but it's a lot more nutrient dense. So I would say a really well-balanced, nourishing lunch starts with a nourishing breakfast.
Yeah, I love that. And for those just listening, we have on the screen pictures of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I know we're focusing on lunch, but really it's about building, and giving context. In our practice, we're all about giving context, right? Because like Dalia said, really setting yourself up for a great lunch does start with a great breakfast, and it just builds on one another. So it's so important. So if you're not getting that visual, hopefully Dalia is explaining it and you can kind of hear that. But yeah, it's really, really important. And here I know some watching are like 50% carbs, like half of your breakfast is carbs. Like what? Like that's crazy. But we're not talking about like crackers or potato chips, or we're not talking about like a hyper refined carbohydrate here. We're talking about carbohydrates. What comes to mind for me is whole fruits, whole grains, right? That's the first and foremost what comes to mind. And that can look so different to so many of us. And there's so many different variations and so much diversity you can get on your plate just with those two options. Like, hey, pick a whole fruit, pick a whole grain, and that's wonderful. You're already 50% done with your meal, right? So there's so much there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I always say, start your day off with great breakfast. And then for lunch, you're more apt to be able to gauge your hunger and satiety. And we know if you're balancing out your meals really in a nutrient dense way, then by the time lunch rolls around, you're not that hangry monster that Katie was describing, where you're 10 out of 10 hungry, which, we've all been there.
Dang, when that happens, don't go to the grocery store. Don't open your cupboard for the snacks, because it will not be.
Or go to the grocery store to try to
Or
build
Costco. My God.
Oh man, it's rough.
Yes, we always roll up to the checkout line with our daughter eating some type of snack that she's grabbed from the shelves. But
Yeah.
hopefully if you are venturing out to the store, you're like, okay, what can I piece together? And maybe you're grabbing things that look similar to this, where you're like, okay, let me grab some quick veggies. You could grab a quick, already made salad. Great. If not, grab some sugar snap peas, grab some cut jicama, grab some cucumbers, cherry tomatoes. There's so many different quick veggie options that even if you're like, my lunch is in the car today, great, let's make it happen, where we're adding in 50% of those non-starchy carbohydrates. Even if you are hangry and you went into the grocery store, we can still make that happen. We're going to show you examples of this. And then you're also venturing out and you're saying, let me find some high fiber carbohydrates. So even if you are at the grocery store, maybe you're pairing some of those different veggies you got with some high fiber whole grain crackers. Maybe that's some type of other whole grain. Maybe you got like a little side of rice or potatoes they usually have in the deli section, or maybe that's a fruit or a different type of whole grain. You're getting in some high fiber carbs, and then you find some great protein source. So you want to get about a quarter of your plate protein. I don't usually give exact amounts because all of us are different, right? We all have different activity levels, different body compositions, different needs. So that is really the type of lunch that is going to keep you satisfied and really going to nourish you very, very, very well. You have these 3, 4, 5 meals a day, whatever eating looks like for you, to really get in as much nourishment as possible. So this is our recommended guide for those who are wondering, like, what are you kind of basing your recommendations off? What are you basing your meals off of? It's this, and this is really what evidence is really supporting as well. I don't know if Katie and Laura, you have anything can add to that or any comments about that?
Yeah, I have to say, I love this way of guiding people in terms of like, how do I build my meals? A lot of people will say, well, what macros should I have? And they get really nitty gritty, but that gets really hard to do on a day-to-day basis, especially when you're eating out or you have a variety of different foods at home and you're not sure how to put them together. I always go back to just that quick visual: half your plate, a non-starchy vegetable, carbohydrate, protein, and you can just let whatever is in your fridge and your pantry go onto the plate, and you know that at least you have a very balanced meal that will keep you full and satisfied.
For me, I think what has helped a lot as well, I don't know if any of you have heard of like Glucose Goddess. Yes, so I love how she shares all of the hacks about like maintaining your glucose levels throughout the day. And like what Dalia was sharing earlier, having a really solid breakfast in the morning will set you up for success, for your energy, for your mood, for your skin, for your gut, for everything pretty much. And I think one of the big topics is around fiber and like getting that fiber in first, your non-starchy. Because as she was sharing, and with evidence also in research has showing, is that once it enters into the intestine, it kind of functions as a mesh around the intestine. And then when the glucose molecules from the carbohydrates are coming in afterwards, they're going to slow down the absorption in the bloodstream. So then your glucose hikes won't be as high or as aggressive, and these will make you have better moods, better energy, and will give you less cravings and less snacking after because you'll feel more satiated as long as you like include the protein and the fat. So it's like this combination. Whenever, that's what I think when I'm building my plates. I want to have my fiber, my protein, and my fat, the trifecta. And then I'm going to add my starchy and my sugars, my fruit, my dessert, whatever that is, so that all of those three, the fiber, the protein, and the fat, keeps us fuller for longer. And the release of the sugar is like more like steady instead of like up and down and up and down, and then giving us like crashes in the afternoon or in the morning, and then we just want to eat whatever it's in front of us. So that would be my take on it.
I love that, Laura. And just as a reminder to everyone watching, if you go to marriedhealth.com and click on shop, you can get a lot of free guides for meals, blueprints for meals, great guides, whether even if you're looking for breast cancer, our Good Gut shopping guide, which will have a lot of the items we're going to be speaking on and just showcasing in our lunch. These are things that just we use, our dietitians use, that we like to eat. So just as a reminder with that. And it is, I mean, what Laura is really touching on is the why, right? Why are we doing this? Why not just eat cookies? Why not just eat that bag of chips? Why not just be on the go and grab fast food? When we're talking about outcomes, right? We're talking about really great health outcomes. You want your kids to be healthy. You want your grandkids to be healthy. You want to be healthy for your grandkids and kids and spouse and significant other. The list can go on, right? And part of that health, I mean, it's so amazing how things are connected. We just think of like our blood sugar, right? Laura was talking about our blood sugar. Like, okay, so what if it spikes? Like, I'm spiking my blood sugar. So what? I want to connect this back to the gut, right? It's our pancreas that's really helping us with our blood glucose control, right? Our blood sugar. And what happens is this constant roller coaster, all these spikes up and down, up and down, up and down. Over time, you're kind of burning out your pancreas. Guess what else your pancreas does? It helps us digest. It creates pancreatic enzymes. As you tend to tire out or inflame your pancreas, you tend to get diabetes and other diseases. We tend to find a huge correlation with diabetes and gallbladder issues. Let us know in the comments below if you know someone who had their gallbladder removed or anything like that. This all ties back into your digestion and how you're absorbing. So you can see how a simple thing like, okay, I have high blood sugar, can then over time just compound and compound and compound and cause more issues. So these things, it's so important. It starts with like, okay, I'm building a healthy lunch because what are the outcomes from that? We want positive outcomes from what you're eating. This is
Mhm.
super, super important.
And we like to come on here and chat with you all, but we're not just talking heads. We want to show you that we, yes, like to talk the talk, we walk the walk, and we want to give you tangible examples because not all of us are auditory processors, right? Sometimes we just want to see something in front of our eyes. And so we came with a couple of different examples. I know, Katie, you brought a snack box. James and I brought a couple different examples of lunch as well, because we just wanted to show you what a realistic day in the life could look like for us. These are things that we literally went into our refrigerator, put together, because we did want to show you some real life examples of different things that we could be packing for lunch or we could be packing for snacks. So Katie, do you want to show your snack?
Yeah. So the first thing I also want to point out is the container. Is what I love about this. You can just get these on Amazon. Is they have a little compartment for your silverware. So everything is all in one. You don't have to run around your house in the morning and try to find, oh, do I have a spoon? Do I have a fork? It's all in there. But also it comes with little dividers too. So you can really easily just put all of your snacks in. But one of my favorite kind of snacks to always have on hand and just throw it in your fridge, throw it in your bag for work is some sort of dip with veggies and like a whole grain or whole wheat cracker. This, if you think back to that plate that Dahlia showed, you have your protein from the whole wheat crackers or whole grain crackers and the hummus with the chickpeas. And you also have a ton of your non-starchy vegetables with all of the produce that you can throw in there. Just makes for an easy like grab and go. You can do it at your desk while you're working. You don't have to think too much about it. And in addition to that, one of my like go-to snacks that I always recommend as well is a fruit with a nut. So I have an apple, just as an example, super quick and easy. Apple with like a baggie of nuts or a nut butter. It's always something that I recommend, easy to throw in your purse. You don't have to put it in the refrigerator. It's always there. So if it's 5 o'clock and you're on your commute home and you're like that hunger gremlin is starting to like get at you, you have something to satisfy yourself to get you home. So you have time and mental energy to be able to think about, okay, now how do I make my nutritious dinner?
Such a great example. Katie, can you share, how long did it take you to put together that little amazing snack box? I love that container. I love that it's glass too.
Literally 30 seconds. So if you already have the hummus, whether you bought it or you made it earlier in the week, take a nice little dollop. If you have pre-cut vegetables, oftentimes you can make them last longer in your fridge if you put them in water. So like your celery or carrots, if they've been pre-cut, put them in a jar of water. They'll last a bit longer, but it also takes less than 30 seconds to just grab a carrot, grab some stalks of celery, cut them up, grab a bell pepper, and very minimal cleanup in the morning or in the evening. Do it the night before.
Mm-hmm. And I want to point out in our practice, we have quite a wide range of patients. Maybe you're like, yeah, I don't eat a vegetable. So pre-cutting would be great. That's my next step. I'm going to just go buy pre-cut veggies and throw them in. Maybe you're like a chef and you just cook nonstop. And you're like, yeah, I do that. And maybe, you know what, celery hurts my stomach or broccoli's been hurting my stomach. Let us know if you want to drop a question down below or reach out to us after, where we can get into the weeds with this, right? Like everyone's a little bit different. You're in a different place. And so there's quite a broad spectrum here of people. So it's really, it's really just what is your next step and how does that look for you, and applying this to your individual, self. And that's very important. But I love these tips, Katie. They're great. And simple lunch.
It looks aesthetically pleasing too. It doesn't have to.
It helps. Yeah.
I don't always chop my stuff. Sometimes I'll just bring a huge carrot with me, and it doesn't bother me to sit there and eat something like that. Yeah. So even if you don't want to chop it, don't. Just
you don't have to. Yeah.
But it is nice when it looks so pretty like that.
And even buy like the colorful carrots. They don't just come as orange carrots. They come in purple and white and orange, of course.
I love that.
I got to get a compilation of Dahlia eating massive, like she'll eat heads of lettuce and huge carrots, and like, because sometimes you're just like, I'm just going to grab this, and she'll use her mouth knives and go to town. So yeah.
Yes,
I love that.
But it is always so nice. And I love what you said, Katie. Someone else washed it for you and someone else cut it for you. So I am always like, hey, thanks Trader
for it.
Joe's for cutting my stuff for me, or thank you person at the grocery store for chopping up and washing whatever it is so that I can just grab it as quickly as I could grab something else when I'm in
Mhm.
that state of hunger that Laura was
Yeah.
describing. So beautiful examples. And I love what you said that, one of them could just be there. It's your backup, right? You have that
Mhm.
apple and nuts in your purse, and maybe that's even dried fruit just in case,
Mhm.
but you have it there. It's your go-to, it's your backup. Because there's nothing worse than just feeling hungry and you're like, oh man, here's some stale, crackers at the bottom of my drawer, or here's some cookie that I had in here. I don't really want to eat this. I'm not actually hungry for this, but this is just what's here. So you're
Mhm.
setting yourself up for that success where you're like, okay, I had my own back. I knew
Yeah.
that I threw this in there.
And if you don't eat it, totally fine. At least you had something just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a great kind of question coming in. I want to pop that up. Does it lose nutrients to have veggies pre-cut far in advance? And would love to see if anyone has a take on that before we pop in.
There could be a very small amount of nutrients lost when that pre-cutting process is done. Like some nutrients or some vegetables and fruits, like garlic, for example, you want to chop and stop and let a couple minutes pass so it's really releasing that myrosinase compound. So it has the most antioxidant in it. I would say the benefits, if you are the type of person to say, I'm not going to eat the vegetables unless they're pre-cut for me, even if you lost a little bit of the nutrition in that vegetable, you're still in a net benefit because you're still eating the vegetables. You're still eating fiber. You don't lose any fiber when you're doing that. You're still getting hydration. You're still getting so many different vitamins and minerals. So I would say yes. And if you can do it and you'd prefer, like, nope, I'm at home, I could chop them up really quickly and I'd prefer not to lose any of the nutrients to have pre-cut things, great. Then have that. You're gaining all the benefits. But if you're like, I'm just not going to eat them if they're not pre-chopped for me, go for benefit over risk. I think social media has skewed a lot of our thinking to be perfection. And we see the most perfect few seconds of someone's day. And so we think, okay, well, that influencer told me that it's going to lose nutrients. That must mean it's bad. If that's not your life, then do what's best for yourself and pick something that's still going to have a net benefit to it. I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that.
Agreed. Same. Just
Yeah, I thought of, because I thought of on social media, I've seen influencers promoting eating from the vine, or like, have you guys seen that?
No.
I
no.
wish I had a
Stop.
clip, because it's
What
influencers
loophole did you
like,
go into, my God?
I have no idea what rabbit hole I was in. This says a lot about me, right? Like, oh
Yes, it
no.
does.
But yeah, like influencers who are like, think of like the shirtless yogi who's like, the persimmon's ripe on the tree, and they're eating directly from the tree and they're promoting that, right? But it's like, unless you live in Hawaii or on a farm, or I mean, it's like, is that realistic, right? So I like to give the analogy of exercise. I think a lot of people can agree movement and exercise has a net benefit, but you have to realize exercise can be very inflammatory. It's inherently inflammatory. It's meant to break down. We go into a catabolic state during and even after exercise. And then it's up to nutrition and our rest and other lifestyle factors to then build us back stronger and healthier, which we call an anabolic phase, right? So we get this with exercise. Nutrition is similar, right? You're going to have to crack a few or chop a few carrots and cucumbers and get to chopping. Yeah, you might lose a little bit of the nutrition, but overall, like Dahlia said, it's that net benefit. So I just liken it to exercise. Like, yeah, you're going to get sweaty and you're going to hurt and you might feel a little sore, but overall you're going to have that net benefit. So yeah, unless you want to just eat straight from the plant, like some influencers.
We have another good question as well, but I love that question. So again, you do you.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, I know we've mentioned this in past lives as well, but I feel like there is validity to that question that was asked. Yes, you will absolutely lose a percentage of certain nutrients when you chop in advance, but frozen is great.
Flash frozen.
Yeah, flash frozen is a great nutrient retaining process. A lot of people are always shocked when we say that. When they freeze things, a lot of times it's frozen within 24 hours of picking it. So you're retaining a lot of those nutrients. So frozen can also be a great convenient option. And again, someone else also washed it for you, cut it for you, prepared it for you. All you have to do is kind of heat it and eat it. So don't discount things that are pre-chopped, pre-frozen as well. And those can go into some of these new strategies, because somebody's asking, what recommendations do you suggest or personal strategies you use to find new recipes when you are feeling burnout from eating the same recipes and foods? And we've all been there. Laura and Katie, what are your go-tos when you're like, I do not want to eat that thing again? I went on a kick, I went on a food jag, but I'm over it.
I just kind of go back and forward, but I have like a few books, and within the books there's recipes. So whenever I'm just tired with my own like same recipes just for convenience, I just kind of go back to the book and just look for a recipe that kind of calls, and then I just try that. Or I also used to have an app which was really good for recipes called Deliciously Ella. I don't know if you've heard of her. Fully plant-based, and she did amazing. It was very cheap per month, and it was very delicious recipes. So I get inspiration there, or even Instagram. I mean, social media sometimes now, I know it can get intense, but they have like really nice ideas, and then I just kind of save them, and then I just come back to that, and then oh yes, I remember this recipe, and then I try that. Or sometimes what I try to do is to try a different food once a week. So like whenever I'm doing my grocery, then I just, okay, what can I do with one food that I haven't had a part of my usual recipes? And then that's what I would do.
Love that.
And I agree with Laura completely. I love just having like a store of cookbooks that you have at home that you can always flip through for inspiration. But again, with like the trying one new food a week or even one new full recipe a week can be really helpful, just to like add a little bit of spice to your life. But I also find a lot of my patients also struggle with picky eating that they've had their whole life. And that is a really great way to decrease the pressure that people can feel around the variety of foods that they eat or lack of variety of foods they eat, to say, okay, I'm going to try cauliflower this week. And that's, going to be the big buildup for them. And they can try it and see if they like it, but then have no other pressure in terms of other new foods. And if they like it, great. Add it in the rotation, pick a new one for the following week. That's always something that I like to recommend for those people too.
I love that. I would say one thing I like to do is either be inspired. If you want a break, go out and grab something to eat. And sometimes just seeing the menu, you're like, oh, I want that. I want that. I want that. So I'm going to make that at home. Take a picture of the menu or Yelp a menu, or think, okay, I really love Chipotle. Let me try to throw together a Chipotle bowl. Or I love when I go out to eat at Flame Broiler. I love when I eat at this restaurant. I really, really enjoyed this element of it, that crunchy, salty salad, whatever it is. So take inspiration from times like that as well when you're going out to eat. If you don't actually want to go out to eat, like I said, look up menus of that restaurant that you really love and be like, okay, what do I have in my fridge? How can I mimic that? Or what ingredients do I want to buy in order to put some of those yummy things together and have just that little bit of variety? But I think we covered some really good resources, blogs, social media, cookbooks, trying one new food a week, and then seeing what other creative chefs are throwing together out there so we can try to mimic what they're doing.
Love it.
Family recipes too.
Ooh.
I go back to those ones too, just like aunts and stuff like that. If they have any ideas.
Those comfort foods from our childhood, absolutely. And it's funny, I always realize that I grew up eating Egyptian food, right? My parents are both Egyptian. I never make Egyptian food. And I'm always like, sometimes when we're burnt out, I'm like, oh yeah, I want that, stewed peas and okra dish that my mom used to make, or I want to make that jute leaf soup. And absolutely, those cultural foods can be so comforting as well, even if they're an upgrade. Maybe as a kid, you loved mac and cheese and you're like, okay, let me use some legume pasta and add some veggies to it and get a cashew-based cheese sauce or whatever that might look like. But that can
broccoli.
Also just, yes, that can bring
fiber.
that back and be like, okay, I used to take this to school as my lunch when I was little, and now I'm just making it more nutrient dense. Okay.
Love that. We have more
All
questions, but do you want to?
Yeah, let's show our lunches.
You wanna
And,
do
we
this?
put these together knowing there are usually two types of people. There's this person who's like, I have my life together, right? Like I put my lunch together. I have my lunchbox. This is actually our daughter's lunchbox. And then there's this type of person as well who does things that are like, okay,
A
I don't-
reusable shopping bag.
I'm going to throw things in a bag, but I'm still going to make sure that I'm getting my nutrient dense food in, right? So we both have kind of different examples of where you are on that spectrum and what you could be packing.
Ladies first.
Okay, I'll show mine first. So I would
Have it
say,
all together.
being
right.
honest, no, I'm that person. Like I'm going to throw it in that Trader Joe's. I am not this person. I would say James is more of this person who he's
We
usually
switched.
packing things, putting things together,
Pretty
but
organized
I'm
with my
pretending
food.
today. I picked this example because this is what I hear from my patients. I actually heard this from my patient last night. She was my last patient last night. And I was like, you know what? That inspired me to talk about this today. So she says, I'm so hungry. After like an hour after my lunch, I'm so hungry. I don't know why I'm not getting satisfied. I'm picking all these nutrient dense foods, but I'm still hungry. And I asked her, what are you bringing? She said, a salad with kale and bell peppers and broccoli and sprouts. And she named all these beautiful non-starchy vegetables. And I was like, that's wonderful. What else did you pair with it? And she said, potato. And I said, okay, how much potato? She's like, actually, it was like really small. It was like 2 small potatoes. And I said, okay, what was your protein? She said, I didn't put a protein in it. So I said, I love that you got in non-starchy veggies, but we want to complete that plan. And honestly, this patient was trying to gain weight. So I said, maybe for you even, we've changed the plate a little bit. Maybe you're just getting a quarter of non-starchy veggies and you're really focusing on more calorie dense starches and proteins. So I wanted to pack a salad. And
Wow.
I put it in a big bowl because I don't like when stuff falls out. So I like to exaggerate. Put it in a big bowl. If you want to mix it together, you definitely can. So great. If we
Did that fit in the lunchbox? Sorry to
uh,
interrupt.
it was bulging a little bit,
Okay.
but we made it work. But I started with just different base. I had pre-bagged arugula. I had some romaine lettuce. This was pre-chopped cabbage slaw. So I threw all those together. We bought some sprouts from the farmer's market over the weekend, and I made this tofu in the air fryer. It took 10 minutes to cook while I was putting everything else in the bowl. So great.
Rate Delia's salad in the comments below.
Yes, let me know what you think. And we had a cashew dressing. So I threw that on top. And this was, again, pre-cut jicama from the store. So I have my...
How do you make the dressing? There's actually a picture.
A question, huh? This actually goes really well. I missed a bunch, but if you have homemade dressings for salad, please share. We do. It's actually, I feel like it's on our...
We do. So if you go to our blog and you go under blogs, you can search for our different stuff, but we have our cashew dressing on here.
It's on our blog.
So it's on our blog.
Type in cashew in the search on our
blog. You can find our cashew dressing recipe. But it's one that we tend to make very frequently because it goes with a lot of different styles of dishes. So I put it here in my salad. But like I said, this would not fill me. So I made sure also to pack a little side of beans. And if you want, you can throw in, I put in a little sprinkle of plant-based cashew cheese, add some healthy fats, and I put some salsa for some flavor. So you're getting in more starch and more protein and healthy fat right here. And then don't be afraid. If you want more carbs, have more carbs, right? You don't want to be hangry. Put some additional carbs, whether that's, I could have put rice in the salad. I could have put some quinoa. I wanted to put additional starch. So maybe I'll make some little tacos and then eat the salad as well. But don't be afraid to add that extra carbohydrate. I will say that's usually where I see people make unfilling salads. They don't have enough carbohydrate in it. It's great. You get those non-starchy veggies. They really fill your stomach because they're very voluminous, but they're not very calorie dense. They're not very energy dense. So you are going to be hungry very shortly after. And then, like I said, I grabbed our daughter's lunchbox and she didn't even open this today, but she had this beautiful little, James packed this for her. I would never pack this. I throw her in the whole orange and an uncut cucumber in her lunch, but he gave her some rambutans, cucumbers, and oranges. So this could be a yummy additional part of lunch. But that's what I
Wow.
packed. I pretended I had my life together.
And I'll just add, the dressing is so easy. You soak cashews, blend them with water, salt. You could throw in a little
Lemon.
vinegar and lemon and nutritional yeast, and you have an amazing dressing. And you can mix and match that. You can throw in berries or add more vinegar, make it more vinegary and tart, or you can make it, so many different ways. But a cashew base to a dressing versus a ton of oil, let's say, especially if you are watching your body composition, you're trying not to gain those excess calories, using a whole cashew versus an oil, whether it's an avocado or olive oil, could be a great way to help you satiate and still get a yummy dressing and healthy fat.
Or if you're like my patient yesterday,
Or
she was using 1 tablespoon of olive oil on her salads. I told her to put 2. So again, just determine where you are and what your needs are.
Right.
Okay.
I have an idea of a dressing as well that is very easy to make. I love it. And it involves hummus, actually. So it's already done. You don't have to do anything. You can buy it at the store. And then you just add a little bit of extra olive oil, a little bit. But then you add lemon and a little bit of water to kind of run it down.
Yeah.
Yum.
Dude.
And then you just mix it, and then you just put it in. And so you have like the protein from the chickpeas. You have the protein from the sesame, like the tahine. And then the citric from the I'm blanking. Lemon. Or lime.
I love that. Sounds yummy and so easy. I'm all about that. I call it healthy lazy. I think that's how I aspire to live my life, where I'm like, I don't have hours to cook. I don't, sit here and meal prep beautiful boxes, though you can. But something like that, I would totally do that. So I love those tips.
And then I'll go, since I'm right here, so we can show like that. I mean, how long did that take you? I want to ask.
I would say 15 minutes.
15 minutes. So that was because a lot of it was pre-chopped. But let's say you don't have 15 minutes. This probably took you like...
That took me literally 2.5 minutes. I timed it.
So here's a 2-minute version where you get... We have some of these here. Here, you can show that. Like an agile bowl. But so this is like think of just a better version of a cup of noodle, but it's a legume base. So there's different versions of these out there. And yes, it is more than a cup of noodle. But guys, you're talking about nutrition, right? You're talking about what you're putting in your body. So, but it's not more than going out to eat or anywhere near fast food and eating out for lunch. So you throw that with some hot water that you can then pour that into later on. Okay.
And they give you some extra virgin olive oil here, some seasoning, so you get to kind of decide.
Dalia literally took the bag, so like she said, and threw in whole fruits into it. So this was already the bell pepper bag. So she was like, you get the bell peppers plus the apple and a cucumber, and just threw it in there. And it is washed, thankfully. Thank you.
I was raised by FOBs. These are the type of lunches I took to school.
It's organic, so like, that's great.
Here's your lunch in a pita bread bag. And that's fine.
Shout out Mama Chia. Who likes Mama Chia?
Me. I have
Mama
one.
Chia pouch. Great way to get amazing fiber from the chia seeds, omegas, and even some protein. So
I always have those at my desk, because if I'm hangry between patients, I'll just suck one of those down.
Yeah. Core Bar. Have you guys heard of Core Bar? Shout out to Core Bar. And we're not sponsored by any of these guys. We're just sharing. Core Bar is great. It has a great prebiotic element. The fiber to carb ratio in these bars are excellent, and they're tasty, organic, and gluten-free.
And no added sugar.
No added sugar. These are really good. So Core Bar, what else did you put in here? Oh, these are pretty cool. These we eat them as well as Layla eats them, the solely. So no added sugar, just kind of, they call it fruit jerky, but it's essentially a fruit leather. So these are tasty snack. Wow.
I'm not going to lie. Those are not my favorite.
I like them.
Okay.
I really like them. And you know what? These are Dahlia's favorite. I can live without these as well. Fruz balls. So that's where Dahlia and I differ. Fruz balls. These are basically like a pre-made, what do they call it? Power balls, right? Like when you use dates and nuts and roll it into a ball.
Yeah.
Dahlia loves those.
Yeah, they just have dates, peanuts, coconut, pear puree, strawberry puree, elderberry juice, and salt. So that
and if you do have the extra time, though, you can just do it put it in the food processor. It will take you very little time as well.
Definitely.
If you feel like it. If you don't, then you just buy it.
If you're this person who has their life together. Absolutely. Or if you're feeling like this person today.
Or maybe one day you have your life together, and that can also happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even, I mean, to Laura's point, like if you did a huge batch and then freeze them. Like you can have power balls, whenever you want, and maybe you make them once a month or once every 2 weeks, depending how much you're eating. But yeah, super simple. So it is that planning a little bit. And we have great questions. I mean, really quickly on what type of sweeteners in the core bar. There's no added sugar in this core
Just
bar.
the dates.
I think it's just dates from the last time I had looked. But yeah, pretty much the first 5 ingredients: gluten-free whole grain oats, peanuts, dates. It has a prebiotic starch and
unsweetened chocolate
where is
chips.
it? Almonds.
No, almonds and cashews.
Almonds, cashews, coconut. Yeah.
That's more than 5, but
yeah, there's those simple ingredients.
The dates are the added sweetener for that.
Cool. Okay. I love it. I love all the questions. Ooh, we have some juicy questions. That's a good one.
All right. So someone's asking, how important is the timing of meals and snacks throughout the day to maintain energy levels? Ooh, this is a good one. Lauren, Katie, do you have any input on that?
I do, but go ahead.
Go ahead, Laura. No, Laura, go ahead.
I think it depends again, but yeah, so it depends in the sense of, are you going to exercise in the morning or are you just going to wake up? So that's a fair question to ask. The other thing is, it depends if you're a female or a male, because we have different bodies. And as women, we have very cyclical hormones that shift very often. And I think for a woman, it's very important to have breakfast in the morning within an hour of waking up, just for the glucose stuff that we were talking about earlier. And usually food will, like, to digest, it takes like 2 to 3 hours, depending on how big your meal is and how solid and how complete. And after that, you can kind of notice, like after the 2-3 hour mark, you can start noticing your body kind of getting hungry again. And then it's like your cue to maybe have lunch. But sometimes we may actually be hungry earlier, because depending on when we woke up, really, then maybe we have a snack, because maybe it's not lunchtime yet, and then we have still a lot of hours during the day. So then the snack would be, I would always suggest something that includes the 3 things that I mentioned earlier: a fiber, a protein, and a fat. Because if you just have a starch or a fruit, you're going to be very hungry and it's not going to be satiating enough. But then that's going to take you to your lunch again. Once you have a very solid, good lunch, then it's going to take, a few hours to digest again. And then you just take it to dinner or snack again if it feels like you need it in between the afternoon. But I think it's important to give your stomach and your intestines a break from food, so that they can recalibrate, and your guts kind of have a break to do their thing and do the digestion. And then just I think it's more efficient way of using your energy for you and for your guts for your gut microbes. But if anyone has any extra stuff on timing and snacks.
Yeah, I was going to say definitely eating more so in the morning. In terms of insulin sensitivity, you are more insulin sensitive in the morning. So you're better able to process your meals. This often comes up in terms of fasting. So intermittent fasting is a huge trend. Happy to talk about that another time. But a lot of times, intermittent fasting is typically done from noon till 8 p.m., for example, solely because that's kind of how we live our lives in the United States, where dinner is often our biggest meal of the day, whereas breakfast should be kind of, if you think of as your biggest meal, followed by lunch, then dinner being your lightest meal, so that you have the time as well as being more insulin sensitive to be able to process those foods and then use them as fuel for the rest of the day, versus having to play a little bit of catch up, I didn't feel myself today, and now I have to sort of make sure that I fill the tank back up before tomorrow.
And I just want to point out, this is integrative nutrition, right? Where you see a little string popping out, and you're like, I really want to fix that. And you go to pull it and it starts to unravel. And you're like, wait, how much of the string is there? Because you start to realize I'm gaining weight and I don't know why. And then maybe you're in a visit with Katie just like that, and she's pointing out, you're not eating from 12 to 8. And you're like, oh. And then you start to
Or you're only
realize,
eating from 12 to 8.
or you're only eating from 12 to 8. And you're like, and then you start to realize that I'm binging a little bit, or I'm hedonically eating, or I'm not eating enough, and I'm really stressed, and my job and my family. And it's, you start to really, not you're unraveling, but you're opening up kind of what you've been putting away and not really addressing, right? So we do take that integrative approach, and all health professionals should take that integrative approach to really dig deep and go, hey, it's not about taking this supplement and just, here's this weight loss, here's that. I'm blanking on the drug that got really popular, Ozempic. I mean, it's like Ozempic had this craze because, yeah, it's great, let me just take a pill and not address all of these things that are underlying, right? A pill will solve everything.
Well, it can be really helpful for people who
Can be
do
really
need to
helpful.
research.
But generally speaking, again, this is not medical advice, but generally speaking, a pill and just here you go, and that's all you need, has not been working well for the American and other first world populations. So just pointing that out where, yeah, this is part of the process of realizing, oh my gosh, you mean there's another thing? There's something else deeper than that? Like, yeah, that's the whole point. And really, what I challenge everyone to do, whether you're listening now or later, or whoever's listening, and we tell this to all of our patients, is enjoy this journey, right? It's not about when am I going to get to the end, when am I going to be the healthiest person in the world. It's, I'm going to enjoy this journey to health. If you, so to say, married to health, right? A marriage to health that you do day in and day out, and enjoy that process more than, God, when is the end result going to come? When am I going to finally be, and fill in the blank, right? It's more of, I love the process. I really love this healthy lifestyle. I love how I feel every day, and just build on it, right?
So you want to ask yourself where you are in that journey, because if you're somebody who's saying, okay, maybe I was diagnosed with PCOS, prediabetes, and I want to be really mindful of my insulin sensitivity. So maybe I'm the person who needs to eat earlier in the morning, versus maybe somebody else who has different goals. Maybe you're a bodybuilder and you're like, I'm doing a, crazy 1 meal a day type of thing. So you always want to ask yourself, what do you have going on in your life? And then how does that dictate what I need to eat? I know for me, I specialize in the gut, SIBO, IBS. So what I recommend to my patients with meal timing is to start earlier. So I think we're all kind of in consensus with that. And then really allow at least 3 to 4 hours in between your meals, because by that time, the food has been completely digested from the stomach. It takes 1 to 4 hours, like Laura was mentioning, in the stomach, and then it's moved into the small intestine. And we're starting to then clear the small intestine. So everyone is different. It can take anywhere from 4 to 10 hours in the small intestine. But when you're in a fasted state and more food is not coming down through your stomach, then we activate something called your migrating motor complex. And that's basically a sweep that takes place from the top of your esophagus to the very end of the small intestine. And so if you are having gut issues, if you're constantly bloated, you probably shouldn't be grazing throughout the day. You want to allow that proper time for that sweep to take place. So all that lingering food, any lingering bacteria and other microbe, they can be swept down and move through that entire stomach and small intestine. So I also kind of agree. I would say if you need that, start earlier in the morning, eat that balanced breakfast, so that way you can have a properly set up lunch. And your hours might differ, right? Maybe you work night shift. Maybe you're not eating in the traditional hours that other people are eating in, but you still want to assess what's best for my body and what time window should I be nourishing myself in. These are great questions. Somebody is asking, what about a smoothie with greens? I don't know how you all feel, but I think if you want a smoothie to be a meal replacement, you want to make it a really robust smoothie. So I know we have lots of resources in our practice. We have lots of different handouts. So when you work with us one-on-one as a patient, this is just a few examples of things that we do share with our patients. But I really do love sharing this handout as well, because I'm a smoothie fan. I don't know about you all. I really like smoothies. I see patients only 3 days a week, and I see them back to back to back. So I don't tend to take lots of breaks in between my patients outside of my lunch break. And sometimes I get hangry. Even though I ate a really balanced breakfast and lunch, I'm a couple hours after lunch, I'm like, okay, I've been talking for 3 hours straight and I'm hungry. So I will keep a smoothie with me, usually in a tumbler like this, so it stays cold. But I really, yes, I love what that person said, a smoothie with fruit and greens. And that's a good start. I always say you want to try to match the amount of fruits to veggies, non-starchy veggies that you have. So if you put in a cup of fruit, try to put in a cup of veggies as well. If you put in 2 cups of fruit, try to put in 2 cups of veggies. And some of my favorite veggies are things like zucchini, cucumbers, greens. You could do spinach or kale, or sometimes I'll put lettuce or sprouts in there. You could throw in some butternut squash if you wanted to, or even a tiny bit of cauliflower if you're feeling ambitious. But I do generally recommend try to match that fruit to veggie ratio. And then outside of your liquid, to make it satisfying, especially if you're having it as a meal replacement, you want to ensure that you do have enough protein. So again, know your protein needs. I'm someone who's very active, so I try to get in at least 90 grams of protein a day. If I'm going to be having a smoothie, that smoothie is going to have at least 20, 25 grams of protein in it for me. So I'm going to usually put in protein powder, whether that's a pea protein powder, a sunflower, a pumpkin seed, rice, any type of protein powder that you like to use. You could add things like silken tofu or beans for extra protein. You can add any other protein source that you wanted to, and then a couple tablespoons of nuts and seeds. I really like to prep smoothies in advance so I can just grab them and keep them with me. So I don't tend to put chia and flax in my smoothies that I'm not going to drink that day because they get really gelatinous and I don't like that texture. I put in hemp seeds or pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds, ones that aren't so soluble and going to drink up all that water. But that's usually, if you're going to have a really filling smoothie, just like a really filling salad, you want to have all those different components. And please feel free to chime in if you have any other tips.
I also really love keeping my nuts in the freezer, just as a little side note. It helps preserve the fats that are in them because nuts can be quite expensive. And so it just helps keep them fresher for longer. But I also like to prep and make little individual smoothie bags and just have, because then you can put your chia and your flax because you're not adding the liquid just yet. And then that way you just dump, blend, and then especially smoothies are great for those who have to commute because it's kind of hard to like eat a full breakfast when you're on the train, in the car, walking to work, things like that. But a smoothie is a really easy way to kind of grab and go.
I love it. Well, I think these were great suggestions. I think we showed a lot of great suggestions on building your lunch, building your healthy lunch. I still like the word healthy or nutrient dense, however you want to say it.
Triggered.
And and whether that is mostly plant-based or fully plant-based, there's so many options, guys. It's really about the benefit here is searching for those options. That's one of our jobs as Married to Health and all of our wonderful dietitians. We help curate those options. So if you want those resources, go to marriedtohealth.com and learn more, or click the link down below. Stay tuned for a Good Gut Live that we do once a month, and of course our dietitian lives that we do once a month. Let us know what you want to learn and hear more about down below. And like we said, there's so many options, whether you're purchasing it to eat on the go or you're making it yourself. The beautiful thing is when you're purchasing just truly like beautiful and nutrient dense and clean products, you're supporting that company. You're voting with your dollar on telling Core Bar, we like that you use dates instead of a bunch of cane sugar. Or Mama Chia, we like pouches with chia versus just tons of added sugar or low quality,
or just
puree.
pure fruit without any fiber and protein in it.
Right. So it's great. Support these great companies, vote with your dollar, and you're building a great lunch. So
that way you can heal with each meal.
Yep. Thank you all so much.
Any closing thoughts, Laura and Katie? Any last parting words that you have for anybody out there who is maybe thinking about starting to pack their lunch? Again, like we said, whether you're somebody who works from home and is realizing, I'm not really packing my lunch, and maybe I should. If you're somebody who's finding yourself driving around during the day and continually stopping off at fast food places, maybe how to add nutrient density to that, or anyone else who might be watching, what last tips would you say you have for anybody who's here?
I'd say always meet yourself where you are in the moment. Just know what your outcomes and your goals are, because it really depends, and what we shared here may not work for you. But always reassess and check with yourself and your body. Your body will let you know if something is not of its liking. And just know that we all have struggling days, that we don't have anything perfect here, that there's days that, you know what, the best thing that you can do for yourself is get yourself, buy that wherever you stopped in the fast food, and just add a cup of salad just to get that extra fiber. And just next day you might have more energy and a little bit more time, and then you can get in, all the salad and put all of the things together. So just have a little bit of grace, and take yourself where you are, and just know that you're not alone, that we also go through these as well.
Love yourself. Love it. Have grace for yourself.
Yeah, that was beautifully said, Laura. I think in addition to that, just having the awareness around your own behaviors of, hey, I notice that when I get home from work, I am ravenous and I can't really control. I feel really triggered by a lot of foods. Then think back to, did you have lunch? Was it enough food? Because it likely wasn't. Or was it more of an emotional release of eating all of that food? And that's something Laura can help with. And so just bringing awareness to your behaviors, into your thoughts and feelings, is a really important step too.
So beautiful. I think reflecting on yourself and just continuing to have a self-study is always so important. So working with the dietitian, I think some people expect to be food police and to feel really guilty, but it often ends up, surprisingly for a lot of people, being a place where they discover so much more love, whether that's love that we give to them and love that we encourage them to give to themselves. So that way they can feel with each meal, heal with each meal, pack their nutrient-dense lunches, heal their relationship with food, learn their behavioral patterns, and just resolve to get better one day at a time. So we thank you all for being here. If you'd like to work with any of our dietitians one-on-one, you can learn more about the team at marriedtohealth.com. This is something that is going to be recorded on our YouTube and Facebook. We had a lot of people emailing us and asking us if this will be available later. So if you want to play it back, or if you wanted to watch it later, please do so. And always feel free to connect with us on all of our social platforms. You can find all of us at Married to Health and Dietitians of Married to Health if you're not already following that page. But then you can individually connect with each of our dietitians as well. So if you go to our website, it will take you to each of their social media platforms and their websites. But thank you all for being here. We hope you have a beautiful holiday weekend. If you're here in the States, we hope you get some rest and nourishment, and think about your week ahead, so that way you can continue loving yourself with every single meal that you eat.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.